3 kinds of investments that completely transformed my career from a hobby to a full-time working professional. I went to a design conference called Creative South in Georgia, and it was absolutely amazing. But one of the things that I realized was that everybody there in that conference had one thing in common. Everybody there was there because they were investing in themselves. Everyone. I mean, you could say, oh, well, what about the speakers? But even the speakers were there, yes, to share what they know and to help uplift, the creative community and equip others. But even them, they're there building connections, investing in their career as a designer, artist, illustrator. And it led me to realize that every artist, successful artist that I know, has that very same thing in common, that they are willing to invest in themselves. And I think that a lot of times people are waiting for the perfect opportunity to come, not realizing that while they're waiting for that perfect opportunity, they should be building up their skills. They should be working on their connections and their mindset so that when that opportunity arises, they can be ready. And so today I want to share with you 3 types of investments that every artist needs to make. 3 kinds of investments that separate the dreamers from the working artist. 3 kinds of investments that completely transformed my career from a hobby to a full-time working professional. Number 1 is skills grow with deliberate practice. And I wrote here in my notes that courses and training provide structured learning paths that accelerate your growth far beyond trial and error. The techniques that you learn from experienced instructors can save you years of struggling alone. And I remember when I was writing this, it just reminded me that deliberate practice is so key. Because one of the advice that you hear as an artist is, oh, just draw every day. Just draw and paint every day. But just drawing and painting every day by itself isn't really enough, because you could be drawing and painting the same mistakes every single day. You could be drawing and painting in the wrong way every single day. And I know there are no rules and you should have fun with it. But if you're trying to level up, if you're trying to get a better understanding of perspective, of color theory, of values, things like this, these technical things, if you're trying to grasp and get a better understanding of that, you're going to get a better understanding when you're learning from somebody. And I want to just quickly say that watching YouTube videos like this are helpful. It's great, and there's a lot of free content out there. And I know that everybody's in a different position, and sometimes maybe you don't have the finances to pay $1,000 or whatever it may be for an art course. But I did notice in my experience that when I started to invest financially into courses, I started to really see substantial growth in the work that I was making. I started to get excited, even more excited to draw and paint, because I felt like, wow, I saw my work getting better. So at whatever capacity that is for you, maybe you can't invest in $1,000 course or whatever it is, but maybe you can invest in something that's a little less than that. Either way, I think some sort of a sacrifice is very helpful and very important if you're trying to level up your craft. So again, at whatever capacity you can, and I understand that things can be tough and it could be a difficult thing to invest financially into something, but at whatever capacity you can do that, I think that once you start to do things like that, you will start to see growth in the work that you're making. And number 2 is connections are invaluable. Workshops, classes, and programs put you in direct contact with mentors and peers who can provide feedback, opportunities, and support throughout your career. These relationships often lead to collaborations and open doors that you didn't even know existed. And the reason why I wrote this down is because in my experience, that's exactly how it's happened. These workshops that you attend, or even like this conference that I was saying I attended, Creative South. I've attended this conference before. A lot of times, the things that you gain, it might be technical things. You might learn how to design something better. You might learn drawing, illustration. You might learn a lot of things that directly connect to your craftsmanship. But aside from that, it's the relationships that you build. At this conference, Creative South, I've been here before, and I've always just enjoyed my time so much. I've always gotten so much out of it. But through attending this conference and through some of the connections that I've made there, now it turns out I'm going to be teaching a workshop there. I'm going to be teaching a workshop there on probably digital illustration next year in 2026, which I'll be sharing more of that on my channel. But these kinds of workshops, like this kind of investment, again, it leads to opportunities and things that you would have never even imagined. You know, a few years ago, I was at a Comic-Con show. I used to table at a lot of Comic-Con shows. Wacom, the digital painting tablet manufacturer, they stopped by my booth, and from there, I just built a relationship with them. And it wasn't even anything monetary. One thing led to the next, and I was doing some product reviews for them. They asked if I would do a one-day workshop kind of thing, and I did that. There was some form of payment in the workshop, but for the most part, a lot of the product reviews and other things that I did with them, I did just for fun. I thought, wow, how cool is it to be able to do this for the company that makes the tablets that I draw on? Like, this is like super cool. And that opportunity would have never come if I would have been sitting at home making drawings, sharing them on Instagram. That opportunity never would have come if I didn't say, you know what? I'm not the most social person and I don't do well in front of tons of people, but I am going to go and set up a table at New York City Comic-Con. As, you know, scary as that may seem, but I'm gonna get out of my comfort zone and I'm gonna go do these things. And then that led to a relationship with Wacom, which ended up years later than them gifting me a 32-inch Cintiq. And I say that not to say like, oh, look at how cool, look at this cool thing that I got. I say that to encourage you. Like, really stepping outside of whatever your comfort zone is and really investing into yourself is such a huge part of your art career. A lot of times we think that the way I invest in myself is I have to get better at drawing, I have to get better at painting, at color, at these things. But investing in yourself, whether it be a class, a course, a local art meetup group, something like that, anything like that, these connections that you make will lead to so many awesome opportunities. A lot of times the opportunities don't come in the ways that you maybe imagined them. A lot of times we're thinking it's gonna be an email of somebody offering us a job. It's gonna be a phone call saying, hey, you applied at this place and now we wanna. Yeah, those things happen too, but a lot of the huge opportunities that you get, one of the biggest opportunities job-wise that I got was attending and tabling at an expo, at another event called Lightbox Expo in California. And that's how I finally got my breakthrough into working for mobile games and working for gaming studios. So again, these workshops, these events, courses, and things that you take, it's not just about the technical learning that you'll get from it, but the relationships, and that's a huge part of your growth. Number 3, your professional mindset is going to bring professional results. And I debated over using this one first, but this is actually one of my favorite points. And in here I wrote, investing money in your development forces you to take your art more seriously. When you have skin in the game, you show up differently, with more commitment, focus, and the confidence to value your work appropriately. I feel like this is so important because, I don't know, I'll just speak for myself. If I sign up for a free workshop or a free course, if I sign up for, or if I just watch, let's say I'm gonna just teach myself and I'm gonna watch YouTube tutorials. There's so much good content out there. And listen, I'm not saying not to do them. You should absolutely take advantage of any free resources that you have. In my experience, I noticed that for me, doing it at my own pace and just kind of watching content, it is helpful if you're actually going to be disciplined enough to like follow through with it and do it consistently. For me, I found that unless I had some sort of accountability, it was just difficult for me to be consistent, to be disciplined enough to just follow through and do the course all the way through. I found that when I paid for something, I'm like, wow, now I've paid for this. and now I have to do the work. I have to do the homework. One of the online resources that I used was Schoolism. It's a pretty big monetary investment, but also you have like weekly assignments and you have to turn them in. And not just that, even though you paid for it at the time, at least when I took this course, if you didn't do a certain amount of the assignments, you would get kicked out of the class. So I feel like that now you have to take it serious. And I think that once you start to invest, and it might be that, and again, I'm not saying you have to pay, as I said before, $1,000. It might be that you spend $25 on something, but once you start investing into yourself, I think you start to take it more serious. And then in doing that, you're kind of changing your mindset. And you're looking at your art not just as a hobby, not just as a what if this could become something really awesome one day? What if I could do this for a living one day? It starts to turn into, I gotta do this. You know, I've invested time into this. I've invested money into this. I've invested by flying out to another city to go to this event. It starts to become more real and more professional and more serious. And you'll be surprised how that shift in your mindset will then impact how serious you take, again, your daily drawing, your daily painting, your craft, and how good you want to get at it and how quickly you want to do that. And so I want to leave you with this thought. The question is not whether or not you can afford to invest in yourself, to invest in yourself as an artist. The question is whether or not you can afford to not invest in yourself. That is, I know that it's going to be at a different capacity for everyone. I know that it was for me, especially when I was starting off. But once you start to take yourself more seriously, once you start to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make a little bit of sacrifice in this area so that I could invest in my art here. And you know what? This is all I have to start with. But at least start with something. And I think once you start to do that, I think that's where you'll start to see substantial growth. Not just in your mindset, but also in the type of work that you're making. I believe that our future selves is always counting on the choices and the decisions that we make today. And so I'll leave you with that. Go off and make some awesome work. Invest in yourself, and I know that you will not regret it. And keep the fire alive, my friends.